Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Investor Frame. I'm Paul Sparks here with one of my good friends, Chandler Saine. Chandler is a 23-year-old who is he's absolutely crushing it right now. He runs a 32-person team out of Atlanta, and they're going to gross about $2.5 million this year. So he's sort of demonstrated his ability not only to run a successful business, but now he's got a coaching program called Level Up, where he helps other business owners, entrepreneurs who are in the 1 to 3 deal range, help them go to the next level and get to 7 figures in his business. So it's awesome to have you here, Chandler.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me on. You hit me up as soon as I got back in the States. I've
been dying to get this interview in for a while now.
Yeah, well,
you've been out of town for a long time.
I lived. So if you don't know, I lived in South America for 3 months. It was fun.
Man, you got such a cool background. You were a college dropout.
Yep.
You were a wrestler. Now you're an ultra marathon runner. And then for the last, however many months, you were running around South America, still running all these businesses, still running this coaching program. So what were some of the mentors that you've worked with in the past?
Yeah. So I would say probably there's a few things that really stand out to me. Is one, we did Tiffany High, their virtual 1K coaching class. This is actually kind of what inspired us to do. We did one ourselves for some other people, but we did that 2021 January, and that was they showed us their entire inside of their business. That was one of the most pivotal things. Steve Trang, the sales training, spectacular stuff. I would say the other super, super impactful person was Ren Bartlett.
Yeah.
Obviously, we mentored with him for 14 or 15 months. Just took us from being average operators to just, obviously we're not amazing because there's way higher, it depends on who you compare it to, right? But we got 10 times as good just from being with Ren. And it made us understand the way the business works. It made us understand how to grow and drive efficiencies and run a sales team and just do all the things that you need to do. But I think a lot of it too comes from, because everyone can have a coach and tell them exactly what to do. We do it all the time. And the people who have success are the ones where we tell them what to do. They go and they just start doing it. And they actually just take action, to be honest. And I think another piece of it as well, I know I have it, and I know Gino has it, and plenty of other people who are successful have it, is the way I define being able to get success, be able to do whatever you want. This is how I did it when I wrestled. So just a little bit of backstory is I wrestled for 4 years in high school. My freshman year was my first year. Told my coach I want to be a state champion. He sat down with me. He said, "All right, you want to do it? Let's map out exactly what to do." So he mapped out. He said, if you do this every week, every month, every year, and you hit these marks along the way, you'll have a good chance of making it happen. And then it came true. Yeah. So basically what I broke down in my head, I was at the time I was 17. I realized this when I was probably 20. Of all it is just figuring out where you want to go, determining where you're at right now, and then just figuring out the steps to bridge the gap. And it's pretty simple when you bridge the gap and get that clarity. You're the first thing I need to do is this, and you chop away at it. Then you're all right, what's the next thing to do? This, chop away at it. And I think just putting your head down and grinding.
So, we talk about case in points. You are the case in point in my mind for recapturing and reallocating resources. As small business owners, we're not Fortune 500 companies. We don't have just unlimited budgets, unlimited resources to go hire and whatever. And so there's a couple things that I kind of want to reiterate is, first of all, this business has been done hundreds of times. Yep. So it's a matter of getting around the right people and getting the right education to learn how to not make the same mistakes others have made. And really, most of this business, you're not differentiating between most other businesses. Yeah, your marketing might be a little different. Your messaging might be a little different. You can always add your sort of flavor to things.
Yep.
But what you've done so well is just take what's worked for others, implement it. And now what you do is you help others recognize where they can't, everybody walks around with their own biases, right? And it's hard to see these biases because you don't even realize that they're there.
Yep.
But you've gotten really good at being no, there's a leak right here. And I know that because I've collected the data. You may not be able to see it because of the story that you're telling yourself. But that's where you're kind of hitting your stride right now, it seems like.
Yeah, I would agree. So I think there's two things. One, you hit on the execution point, and two, just talking about pulling yourself back from the day-to-day. So I'll hit on the first part is like, I want to hit on both of these, so don't let me forget, because
Okay.
I might. But the first part is like the execution. So there's like tiers of execution, and I think that taking what, anyone can be given the blueprint.
Yeah.
Not everyone can do the blueprint.
That's right.
And the reason is because of the degree of execution that everyone can put forth. And even like with past directors we've had that, didn't work out or whatever it might be, you give them a project and it just doesn't work. And it's like, why doesn't it work? You did the right things. It's just because sometimes like the details aren't executed as good, the systems aren't as tight, the people aren't trained up, and like just things aren't done as well. So I think like there's just degrees of execution that you can really start to see once you start to delegate these bigger projects to other people and just realize that like, oh shoot, like it takes a lot of time to do these things really well. And it takes a pretty good skill set.
Well, and self-improvement. So we have this phrase that, you've probably heard us talk about is we want to get closer without chasing more. And entrepreneurs are just, more is this endless loop.
It's like a dopamine hit.
It is, and it's never really satisfied, chasing more money or more this or more that. And so the whole concept around the solvable problem is, we're not just going to try to chase more and more and more endlessly. We want to get closer to the things that we actually want. One of the things that I have said, and maybe you resonate with this, is like part of my solvable problem is to play business as a sport.
I like that.
And what I mean by that is it's really more about self-improvement. Like I enjoy the challenge of figuring out a new business. I enjoy the challenge of figuring out how to like change my behavior in order to accomplish something different. And it has a lot to do with what you're saying is like progress or growth, like personal progress, personal growth. But there is a trap that I think a lot of people fall into around just chasing more and bigger and, for the sake of it. Now, when you can recognize like, hey, I've got my financial kind of problem solved, you've built the lifestyle that you want to live. At a certain point, it's like more money doesn't really do it, but it doesn't mean that we need to like hang it up and go sit on a beach and drink Mai Tais all day. Like, I mean, yeah, that might be fun to do for, a couple weeks at a time, but I just don't ever see myself stopping playing this game because it's just so fun.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that resonate with you?
100%. Like I always knew that like, I always knew I loved business just because like I would watch a lot of people. Like I was fascinated with like Jeff Bezos and like all these people from a young age. And like, this is like the life I always saw myself living. I didn't know it would happen so quick, but I guess that's what happens when you work hard. But business is so fun because like every day I wake up and I'm like, dude, I get to go and be around people I want to be around because they're all like-minded, have the same values and all that. And we get to go and accomplish some really cool things. Like whether it's, doing a bigger deal, whether it's doing more deals or growing a team, hiring better people. It's like, it's just fun because you're just figuring it out and you're like, you suck for a little while, then you get better and you're like, oh, I'm pretty good at this. Like, let's go suck at something else. Let's go figure it out. And like, just that in itself is just so fun. And also like the people who are in the entrepreneur space are generally the people who I'd want to hang out with. I couldn't imagine like not having only entrepreneur friends.
Yeah.
Because I can't really, like I go back, just like even simple, like going back home for Christmas, like it's hard to
find less and less in common with the people as you start going like this. And I mean, maybe they're improving, but not in the same way. It's hard to relate.
Yeah, it's hard to relate. It really is like it. But I mean, it's obviously it's your family, so you still like, there's a lot of other things that you can talk about and like relate on and whatever. But just from like a general, like now every time I meet someone, I like instantly am like, are you someone who I want to hang out with in my life more than one time, like more than the interaction we have right now? And it's like, you just get so like hard and judgmental on that and like strict on who you have in your life. The only people who I've ever met are people who are entrepreneurs pretty much. And for me personally, like I like entrepreneurs who like to do crazy stuff, like climb mountains and run ultra marathons. So it's a small niche.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to learn more about Certainty and what we do inside the Whale Club, you can find the link below in the show notes to join our free community on Discord.